Hi, everyone. We are the August 3rd. So this is bi-weekly K8s Infra meeting. A reminder that this meeting is under the code of conduct. So I invite everyone to be respectful of every person in that meeting. So I will drop the link of the note in the chat. Do we have a note taker or?
I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen somehow. So let's start with, I don't see any new people on this call, so I think we can basically start with billing report. So I'm just checking the billing report of last month. So we went a little over 320,000 K, which is, I think, maybe 10% more than the month of June. I suspect compared to last week, we might have, oh, okay. Let's compare to, let's see what's happened in June. Yeah, we got 10% and 10,000 more in the month of July. And if I check July, compared to previous month, yeah, the SIG scalability made some change about basically the number of nodes they are using on specific project. I think that's the main reason of this, because I see basically cost egress slowing down and we're minus 4%. That's interesting. So most of the costs go to the job run by the SIG scalability. I'm not sure we can do something about this, maybe warning them they start to consume a lot more than what we have, they used to consume in the last 6 months. So we might need to talk to them and do a little investigation for this.
On the next model, they're spinning up stuff, and maybe some of it's not cleanly tearing down. It might be a good conversation to swing around and do just a wide check of the approach they're using to spin up and spin down.
They have specific, because to ensure we don't face regression, they have specific jobs running with a specific number of nodes. I'm not sure they can reduce that. I think we should try.
Not about reduction, it's just about time to clean up. And so some of those jobs, the nodes were, and this is just Equinix Metal, it's a different area, but making sure that they're not staying around any longer than they need.
Yeah, that's already an issue for them because they only have 1 or 2 projects that can support this scale, so they have to keep a pretty good eye on that. If a test takes longer than it should and lingers cleanup, they notice, because then they can't run another test, because they're not they can't lease Bosco's projects here. We only have 1 or 2 projects that are like cleared to create 5,000 VMs,
and that job run once a day. And even if it's failing, it's going to clean up by itself, because I think there's a mechanism to ensure they are not stealing resource for this. We checked with them we worked on that last year. So I think compared to, I think April is 10K. in terms of resource use. So it's possible they increase the number of nodes for this specific job. But I think it's what
there's also limited permission to manually trigger jobs in some of these projects. And there's, like I said, there's only like maybe one or two. I think there's one used internally. I think there's one or two used externally.
let me check. Currently, there's only one job using that project. So
No, I mean regular scheduled, yes, but I believe there is a way in open source to manually trigger some scale tests, like because they need to like test a PR specifically before they merge it or something like that.
yeah. This one is a periodic, so I don't think there is a way to trigger that. Maybe they run that manually because they have access to that project.
Well, so I guess we should, what I'm saying is we should check. I think there might be manually triggerable jobs with restricted triggering or something that are pointed at that project. Because I don't think there are more projects.
I will be surprised because I know I checked last time. What is this in front? It's like, let me see quickly.
Yeah, there's pre-submits that point to that project.
Currently,
They're manually triggered. So
okay.
they might have just been doing more manually triggered runs this cycle.
Okay. I think we should at least inform them. Basically, they should not trigger too much because we basically no, that's yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think we should at least inform them that basically they should be careful about this. Okay. Any other question about this one?
So did anything else move?
Yeah, I think we can go to the next subject, right?
Well, it looks like proud build went up a lot. 12.9%. Also, whatever Bosco scales. Oh, that's just that's a rented project, so those are going to change month over month. That's nice.
Yeah, so it's more like
I'm not surprised by proud build is not a rented project.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised because there are too many change currently, especially this milestone Signal doing a lot of change. So it's kind of difficult to measure cost increase because you have like at least 25 SIG using this project.
Quick question. Are you
Yep.
using GKE metering?
Yes, but not the cost breakdown per namespace because that's a new feature and we didn't enable that. So we export the metric from the GK cluster in the dataset and we use that for billing at some point.
Okay, because I thought you were already crunching that data and you're in a position where you can attribute costs.
Yeah, but that's
attribute. Okay,
that's very recent, and even by enabling that, all the job running in the same namespace, but but with no labels for some. So it's gonna be difficult to break down 5K jobs per 6. I think the first thing we need to do is basically trying to label all the per job per 6, enable GK metrics, and see what's and we can try to break down CPU and memory consumption per SIG.
Yeah, even if you do though, I don't know. I think for the most part, like SIGs are not. There's only some SIGs are actually running like their own things, as opposed to for most SIGs, it's like I have some test cases that run as part of a big E2E suite across SIGs.
Yeah, and you also have tests basically shared by that basically transfers tests over all the SIG because they are pre-submit for every pull request in KK.
We also currently have no policy. We just let you use as much CI resources as you want. So without any indication of what that would look like, I don't know how worth it is to
And
Like even if we go to a SIG and be like, you're using more, well, obviously scalability costs the most at the moment, but like it's a thing we intend to test.
You should already be able to use the pod labels to work out which repos are driving.
Well,
But
it would just be it would mostly be Kubernetes, right?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Like the vast majority of our CI is running different configurations of end-to-end testing Kubernetes. And
Okay.
then within one of those jobs, you have like sub tests that are labeled for different SIGs. So it's hard to actually look and say like, oh, SIG storage had a ton more test cases, and now all of the CI jobs are taking longer, so this costs more.
Yep. And also we're talking about specific tests, and I know you are like SIG cluster lifecycle, SIG release, SIG testing, and SIG scalability. That's maybe SIG node. That's the
SIG
5
node.
SIG. Not
SIG,
really in terms of
not a ton, but they have some like specific only for them CI.
Okay. So over the 25 SIG, I think over time we identified those 6 SIG are the one mostly comes from basically the build cluster. So
Okay.
we basically know where are the cost unit. It's just we can go tell to SIG, hey, stop using resources.
Yeah, I think it might be worth breaking down, but I think first we might want a better idea of like, I mean, what do we expect? Because right now, if I had that data and I could look at how much a SIG was using, the fact that a SIG was using more just might mean that they're doing more development. I don't have a reason to tell them like you need to consume less resources or something, because we have no way to decide that.
There's no baseline to establish what's the threshold for jobs in terms of.
I think even
consumption.
if we somehow had really great data, there's a longer lead time on coming to some kind of agreement on what is like permissible.
We're talking about 3 milestones.
I see.
So it's we had this conversation before. I think that was 2 years ago. We had the issue with resource consumption, and we trying to have this conversation, and ultimately it was kind of difficult to break down cost per 6.
The other thing is right now a significant fraction of CI is still running inside of Google. So it's SIG can just be like using less versus another SIG because more of their resources are happening directly billed to Google still. So like SIG scalability looks really expensive right now because we did migrate some of their large expensive stuff.
And we still have.
Are you saying that number on the screen is like a fraction of the actual spend?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because
that's our biggest problem realistically. Like even as we're trying to cut costs, I took a quick look, and my very rough estimate, just what I could get my hands on quickly, I think that Prow costs easily another like $1 million a year in what's still running inside of Google. And that, I mean, like just the main like Prow projects are consuming close to that amount last time I looked. We have large, not auto-scaled cluster usage there, and that's not easy to fix. With the K8s Infra stuff, we've said, okay, you are not allowed to schedule a job to this cluster without at least setting some kind of resource request. But the old state of Prow is just a total free-for-all, and most of the jobs don't actually set resource requests. They're just thrown at a big cluster, and the cluster was scaled up to meet demand.
Oh, yeah, we're pretending nothing happened in the last 5 years, then basically.
Yeah. So I'm not on those teams anymore, and probably won't have access to that stuff. But I think once
we finish to address the issue with controller image distribution, we might take a closer look how basically we can trying to extrapolate resource consumption coming from the Brid cluster.
Well, and we'll probably be able to cut some costs if we can get it auto scaled. But what I'm saying is that is just getting to a state where that could happen is a big lift, and it's really difficult for job authors because they don't because in the current state, there's no way for them to have visibility in this. I'd say even in SIG K8s Infra, there's very poor visibility into like, am I sizing my resource requests appropriately, which helps us size the cluster automatically. And we don't, people are going to ask for, they're either going to get it wrong and ask for too little and the CI is going to run poorly, or they're going to ask for too much and we're going to over auto scale for more than we actually need. And that's not a super easy to solve problem because the CI makes one-off pods and doesn't have any sort of metrics for like active resource consumption. If you have access to the build cluster, you can kind of just like go watch a running pod and track down a pod for a job you care about when it's happening. But that doesn't seem like something that we're going to scale to like getting the project to go do, even if we granted everyone access.
Especially we're talking about 5K pods running. So it's not scalable.
I think in the future we might be able to do in place pod scaling. That looks like a thing that might be landing in Kubernetes, but short of something like that, I don't think anybody's put enough effort into like how can you appropriately auto scale using this CI. And without that, we're running like huge fixed clusters. So there's a ton more resource usage not on the community building account.
We have vertical pod auto scaling. That might be an option.
It hasn't been historically because pod auto scaling involves recreating the pod entirely because the pod is immutable. I think we might have something coming in the pipeline that allows you to actually change resource requests without like deleting and recreating a pod. I'm not sure if that still works. Like if that's actually gonna update the process in place or just let the API be mutable.
You're talking about something happening in 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. That's true, because also even if the feature merges like in 125, it won't be GA for a few more releases, so it won't be available in our GKE clusters.
In the GKE cluster, so we're talking about something that's going to happen in 2025. I saw the cap about this, the reception request, so we're not even sure it's going to land in 123. So
anyhow,
we diverge.
Being, we have a huge amount of resource usage, and that is going to be difficult to produce. And you know, if we want to finish migrating things, we actually have, we're like if we're trying to look at like how much is a SIG using, well, a whole bunch of that is like not actually even in this report. So
so I think if we want to basically be realistic about our approach, I think the first thing we need to ensure is combine labeling of the pro job plus GK metrics. I think that's basically one step to basically see CPU and memory consumption. So from that, we can identify resource consumption and see what's happening. Anyway,
I think there's a problem that we should be thinking about. I think it's going to be hard, and I'm not sure who's going to staff it.
Yeah, I think we are aware of the situation. Let's focus on the problem. On the present, let's focus on present problem.
Sure, but I mean, I think that is worth noting. A different problem that we could start thinking about sooner is what do we expect SIG to be using? Like, what is a reason? Like, are we just going to allow unbounded resource usage, or like what does that look like? And that might help us understand what we need to be able to keep an eye on that. Whereas right now, I don't even know what a reasonable proposal would look like. I think
there are too many. Each state is its own use case. It's important. I think it's going to be impossible to establish a good baseline on. Not impossible, but very difficult to agree. Well, I think we're looking at limits, not baseline.
Yeah, but so another thing I'm getting at here is when we were running these things inside of Google, there was like no one was aware of like a cap on cost. There's a cap on available quota in a project, right? Like you are allowed to have X many VMs and you have to request quota bumps. There's not like day-to-day engineers touching this aren't super privy to the billing. And so when the project needs more resources because it wants to do more stuff, we just add more resources. At some point, we're gonna, if we move everything, we're gonna that's not gonna work. We can't just keep requesting quota bumps on the fly.
Yeah, you'll have
and
to pretend like a real customer. So
I think we've expanded right now by we have all of the existing internal quota and the external stuff we've added. And I don't think we've actually shut down much costs other than maybe the scale tests on the internal resources. So, you know, there's another like 158 core VMs for the build pool internally that are a total free for all. So I do think like down the line at some point, if we are once after we get our current costs in control, that the next problem is we're gonna just run right back up on the limit as everything grows, and we don't know how to react to that.
Okay. I think we should basically look into this in 126, like when we basically, I hope we're gonna fix the cost problem for content image 125. I think we should basically look into that in 126. Okay, next it's Rian.
Unmute here. Your font is very small on the screen share, but I've got the agenda open on my side. So basically the question just is, we got the S3 buckets out. Caleb and Jay sorted all the things with the bucket. He shared access. Currently he's auditing the buckets, synced. Anything else that you need from us that we can help with? I saw you did some more things on that, Arnold. Anything that you need help? Are you blocked on from our side?
Well, there's one thing I would like to see in the bucket right now. It's few security mechanisms and something related to disaster recovery. Let me find that issue somewhere. Oh, okay. Best practices, like, yeah, I think we should try to address those 3 points. Let me put the issue. I mean, that's one of the things that's going to help build confidence in the production cluster right now, because the bucket and the version, if a blob disappear by somehow, we fine, but we might want to basically SIG release will be interested to get alert on that.
No, we're not fine. Don't delete blobs. That's not permitted. Don't do that. You'll break the. I mean,
no.
right
What
now
I'm
we
saying,
only cache in memory, so it'll be okay. But we're assuming that like once we observe a blob is available, that it's staying available at least, even though
okay.
we don't currently assume that all blobs are available up front since we don't have the promoter sync.
What I'm saying is basically, if somehow there is an action deleting a blob in the S3 bucket, we should get an alert. The how is not really important. Basically, there are mechanisms in S3 to basically get notified if an object is deleted. And I would like to see that.
Is it possible for us to just not grant delete permission to?
It's done. It's currently it's
accounts?
done. Yeah, currently it's done. Basically, even the user we have is only allowed to put object, not delete them. So no one except the org admin have the possibility to delete object.
I feel like then the thing that if we need some monitoring, we need monitoring on like the IAM or whatever, like if there's changes to the org.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there shouldn't like that it shouldn't be happening, right?
Get alert when
We had done something like this early on within the initial creation of the Google Cloud auditing. And I think we stopped doing that at some meeting, maybe when I stepped away for a bit. but it was the configuration for everything.
Yeah,
I
on
think
GCP
would be
we have
reasonable.
we have an audit script that like dumps all of the role
Yep.
bindings, and then we like have
Was
those in
me and
Git.
Tim.
So there's a diff on like
Yeah.
you know what permissions changed. I don't know whether that is the best answer. This is not my domain, but that's just I think it's like let's just not allow deleting things, and then keep an eye on
Yeah.
like did someone somehow get delete permission, and why did that happen? Instead of a mysterious magical delete that Amazon shouldn't have permitted that somehow they're notifying us.
I put a link in the document about a repo that I started working on like about a week and a bit ago. And pretty much it's a GitHub action that runs 2 shell scripts, and one of them generates the list of all of the contents of the bucket using the S3 API subcommand of AWS, and then it commits it to JSON, and then creates a PR and auto merges it. This is just like a see how you could do it kind of thing. But yeah, I'd like to have something like this. This is of course directly inspired by the audit folder of K8s.io kind of thing.
I'm not really concerned by audit on for the S3 bucket right now. I'm more concerned on access. Audit is a different conversation because let me see this.
So the bucket itself, like I said, should be content address Bob, and we're hopefully okay with that. But I would love to see audit on the bucket for like I feel like it'd be really hard to review once we have automatic sync going. Like, are all of these blobs valid? I feel like at that point that effort is spent on the tool that does the sync, making sure it's valid. But like the permissions is the thing that we have in the audit folder. If we can adapt this to like dump the permissions on the bucket.
And also that command might hit API limit on S3 because we talking about more than 100,000 object you want to basically audit.
This
Having
runs
automatic PRs is cool though.
So
I think so too. If I may address your point, Anno.
Yeah.
This runs as a unauthenticated anonymous user every 3 hours, and there's no issue. So I think we won't have any issue with that. And this specific command, I wanted one that dumps all of the metadata that I could find, and so it also includes the thing that's called an E tag. So it's kind of a hash of it, which is useful. And of course, the 256 hashes in the file name for each blob, which is great. But yeah, it dumps it all. You can see when it was last written to, which is also quite cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so thanks. This is also indirectly useful because one of the things that with the like head check cache that I was trying to verify that we hadn't tested at scale yet is, are we going to hit some kind of rate limit asking S3, does it exist? And from best I could tell, it's basically no, kind of.
S3 is fine.
Yeah, S3 will let you make a ton of requests.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So question. So that's an anonymous
Yes.
request you do?
Not logged in, not at all.
No log. Okay, so I'm fine. I think I'm okay with that. We can basically do that and dump that somewhere in a GitHub repository, but is basically not what I'm talking about here in this list. Because right now, basically, your script audits only the object in the specific bucket in all the 10 buckets. What I'm asking is basically an audit of the entire account on a specific point. Basically, if a human access to the operation bucket, we should basically get an alert and say, oh, root access, or someone access to that. Like, because no one should be able to basically get, because we just want to sync to that. That's basically what I'm looking for. So your script is about S3 objects specifically. in that issue, we want to talk about the entire AWS account. So it's too
I'm certain. Sorry.
Go for it. Go for it.
I'm certain that's possible. Do bear in mind the threat is also rather low here for the objects in the bucket, that is. With so in order to get access to that account, you need to be in the K8s.io account or the CNCF root account, which
Yep.
is already quite high privilege. So that would be the first thing. But as Ben just noted shortly before, the objects of what did you say? Something forgetting the words early in the morning here. Content address. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And if someone were to just write any file to anywhere, which would not be good, but it wouldn't affect anything. We're safe regardless.
For a well-behaved client, that should just be a DOS. I mean, the DOS is still annoying, but it's also something we can like. Once we're in a better state with rolling out the registry, it should be pretty easy for us to drop a patch that's just like, don't try to serve from the like messed up bucket.
Yep.
And then figure out how did someone manage to write like bad data that's making image downloads fail, or like delete files, which shouldn't fail since we do the head check. But if you did something like overwrote the files with like empty blobs or like blobs full of garbage, the client downloading the image should note that the hash doesn't match because it requested by hash. And whereas if you wrote like another file next to it, I mean, I guess maybe we're like hosting content, but like no one should be downloading, like no one should be using the bucket directly. Shouldn't be a big deal. Like we don't really care about like the reputation of it or something.
Yeah.
But I think the 3-point mentioned here are kind of important for us, except attacks and possible worst case scenario. I feel like we want versioning of the bucket and at least be notified when something is disappearing.
So I have other things on the S3 front. I feel like we've kind of gone in full circle on this particular subtopic, auditing it.
Wait. I don't want to go in detail about this issue. I think, Caleb, you're fine with what I mentioned in this issue?
To have notifications for any changes to anything in the account?
Basically, notification when the object is deleted.
When an object is deleted.
Yeah.
I believe that's possible.
I mean, those 3 points, and also I just add another issue you open. So those 3 points are fine and should not be that complex to implement.
I don't actually think we should focus on doing this. If we have a sync tool that's keeping things added as they need to be, then a deletion is like the only concern here is a change to the permissions to the account. A deletion itself is something we can handle, and the real concern is why was someone allowed to, what changed with the permissions on the account. So if we want to monitor the permissions on the account, sounds cool, do that. But if we're just trying to like keep track of where something deleted, I mean, we're already hopefully implementing maintain that the state is correct. I don't think we should build a separate process for keeping track of the state.
Okay, so
for this one, like that was like this is part of the goal. We did stuff like that with GCR and it's kind of over engineered, whatever. Since this is content addressed, we should be able to just ensure that we're keeping the contents up to date in whatever that process is.
Oh, I have one question.
Yep.
If you're worried about objects being deleted from the bucket, why don't you just use the S3 object lock?
Because in case of incident, that's extremely difficult to revert.
Oh,
yeah,
I know,
but like if
but
I've escalated permissions somehow that I've been able to grant myself delete where we don't currently have delete, why can't I grant myself like deleting the monitoring of the delete or something? Like, I think the thing we
Okay.
want, I think the thing we're worried about here is permissions changing.
Okay.
Deletions just shouldn't be happening because we shouldn't be handing out permission to delete.
Okay, I see what you're saying. You're right. Because ultimately, every hour, if we have a script that synchronize the bucket, we may not even see that. Yeah. Okay. Let's
And I-
monitor.
What I
But
hear us saying is
I
we're
would
not
focus on just
concerned
like,
around. Go ahead.
no, sorry, go ahead. I believe you're talking first.
Yeah, what I hear us saying is that we're not concerned around the auditing that that Caleb's got in place so far as what's there, because we're syncing it so often, even if a delete happened to occur. But what we are more interested in is upgrading this particular script to audit the IAM roles and their permissions. And if we do that, then we'll feel a lot more confident, and we'll capture that in a ticket. Or I can't, so I don't have a link to this ticket. The font's real small. But if that's this ticket, then let's go ahead and assign that to Caleb. He'll do that, and we'll dump that into repo already let's define a place for it, similar to what we were doing with GCR from back in the day.
We also probably should be like, while we're at it, we can consider whatever we do for this might be something that we do for GCP. We have the thing to do the audit, but I believe we manually audit and then diff right now. It would be cool if we could just notify us when changes occur. Like if we set up some automation monitor, I don't think we should have that bar for either right now, but like forward thinking, I feel like that's the thing to alert on is why is IAM changing? Why is permissions changing? And then for S3, it's just we shouldn't be handing out permissions. So we can lock that down and then monitor like if locking it down changes. And if we have some kind of auto PR or alerting or something, then it might be good to consider extending that to the GCP auditing.
Is it okay what I'm saying here?
Your font's a little small on it. If you can
Wow.
make it bigger. Oh, we can't. We
Yeah,
just see
anyway,
black and
I
white.
think part of it
blobs.
is it's surrounded by a big blue screen. So when you focus on the window, we see you're only utilizing half of your resolution.
There we
for
go.
everyone to see. That made it one.
Okay. Can we agree on those 3 points?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Monitor permission changes for the authentication account and the rest permit.
I also think this is something that we can follow up a little bit more offline. We're through most of the meeting time.
Yeah.
I
So
think the other topics are
if
valid.
Caleb, we okay with this? Are we okay with what is mentioned here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're fine.
So on the S3 thing, sorry, still catching up. So we have
Ben, wait. Let's go over the meeting, finish the issue, and come back if we basically have another subject about S3 bucket. Because it's kind of late for MadMed, so I want to be sure he can leave this meeting even before we finish, and we can talk about that later. Because we're already 50 minutes left. So
okay.
yeah.
I do think it is important to follow up on other outstanding things, and I think there might be other besides the I don't think the auditing was the important bullet.
Let's quickly go over the 2 last meeting item and come back to S3. And if we don't have time, we do everything async. Is it fine? We can talk about everything async. That's not a problem. So right now it's basically 15 minutes left. Let's give the mic to Mahadmed. Go for it, Mahadmed. Do we have him? You are mute if you're talking.
Sorry, my bad. Let's see. 1 second. So before we got to that issue, I want to look at something else.
Which one?
1 second. did I put the wrong hyperlink in the thing?
I see a pull request, but which issue?
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want
so
most?
what I'm saying is like the top line item. So if you go back to the docs, yeah, like where GCR migration, yeah, that one there. Perfect. So all right, so we got a plan. There's all the open PRs available. So first thing we need to do is get AR deployed, which is the third tab that's open in your screen. So right now we've got, I think, 15 regions that we're gonna create AR in and sync the images to. I think that's all right for now.
That's yeah.
Yeah, if you click files change and scroll down, there we go. So line 94 is the regions that are picked.
Okay, so let me go full context on the recording. I suggest this because I think Ben made a recommendation from GCR team. We should basically use Artifact Registry Regional, right?
They're all regional, so none of them is multi-regional. So those are all regional registries.
Yeah, that was the suggestion for GCR team, I think, Ben.
Yeah, I think we should do that because the thing is, right now, I believe Artifact Registry doesn't have the pricing increase coming from GCS, but I think they kind of indicated that it's possible that'll come down the line because fundamentally it's basically the same storage underneath. So GCR is getting hit immediately because GCS is changing pricing and GCS is exposed, but Artifact Registry could come down the line. Since we are going to be sitting in front doing some regionalizing type stuff anyhow, we could just regionalize to individual regions and avoid the cost overhead of multi-regional. Similar, we already do sync between regions globally ourselves, so it shouldn't be a problem to handle that ourselves and avoid the fees associated.
Okay, I already
Yeah.
approved the pull request and I left. I think SIG really should be aware that we do that because during the promotion process, we're gonna have
Yeah.
we might hit API really at some point. So my thinking about this, I think we should not doing this. We should go with multi-regional because cost increase for multi-regional is not worth that effort. We are not basically.
Yeah, so why don't we promote to the 3 multi-regions and these regions? Because I want to backfill them in one go, and then if that happens, we can always switch them out.
So why are we doing multi-region?
Because it's basically even if there is a cost change, the cost change is not impactful because we don't replicate 1 terabyte per day. We just replicate one terabyte per month.
I'm saying that there may be a cost change that looks similar to the GCS cost change that we were worried about.
It's not a problem for us because that cost is very low compared to what we're doing in terms of replication.
In terms of what?
Replication between the GCS bucket or the Artifact Registry. We do promotion of 1 gigabyte.
Yeah,
No, so that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about when you pull the blob or the image from the registry, you will pay a lot more.
It's not changing because it's the same pricing for GCS and GCR at the moment. Ingress cost for GCR and Artifact Registry are the same.
No, we're not. No, we're talking about egress traffic.
Yeah, it's the same.
Right?
It's the same pricing.
Well,
if you check,
but Artifact Registry has its own pricing currently. The GCS pricing is going to go up. The Artifact Registry pricing may also go up in the same pattern.
So they changed the way the pricing Artifact Registry network egress. It's now tied to premium tier GCLB pricing. So whatever happening, the price will not change that much.
For now, like I said, I talked to the Artifact Registry team, and their suggestion was that we should be using regional because of potential, because we don't gain anything from multi-region ourselves, and cost change should be coming.
Well, we gain simplicity for other team.
Not really. Like, we still have to have a list of things we promote to, and we still have to, in the OCI proxy, pick the backend to use.
Okay.
It's like either way, the thing that we got that was really simple before was we had a single alias provided by GCR for us for like the internet globally. If we want the option of redirecting case.gcr.io, we need to take on the regionalizing, and we already have to do something similar for AWS. And we have a very simple approach here that we need to split up the deployment so we can configure per region in the
Per
cloud run,
region.
and then we can just set what's the artifact registry region.
Okay. I already gave my approval on this, so feel free to talk to release team about this. Like you got the LCHIM and we're good to go.
Either way, once we get that stuff in place, which kinds of artifact registries and where they are is an implementation detail we can tune over time. As long as this seems like a reasonable starting point. Like,
so we should do the opposite, start with multi-regional, and if the cost change, we go regional. That's even simpler because we don't have to figure out how to change the promotion process to handle multiple region.
the promotion, I mean, to the promotion process, they're just multiple registries. They're not multiple regions. Like they're all just registries.
So it's just a matter of numbers in terms of
Yeah.
repository.
The biggest concern I have is like the number of them, but it hopefully should be fine. And I mean, we'll know soon enough.
Yeah, there's already an open PR to actually turn one of these add these registries to the list already. So there's about 4 there. So we're gonna add 1 and then like the rest to the 15 and then see how it
think
goes.
Besides being able to deploy to them and making sure that the promotion tool works fine with them, the remaining complexity we have is just changing the Cloud Run deployment to have like per region Cloud Run config. And once we have that, which we have to do either way, it doesn't matter how granular we go. And it sounds like we can avoid needing to change in the future if we just go ahead and go granular.
Okay. So I think next AI about this is to talk about SIG release and tell them.
I already spoke to SIG release, got approval for it. I just need to get work on the others to. What looks good to me on that one. If you go back to the issue again,
Where's the issue? Yeah.
Yep.
This
one here. Yeah, that one. That's the next one. I need to approve on that right now.
I think you need to empower the service account to do promotion, to add file registry first.
Yeah,
because
that's been handled in
where
the other PR. So the other PR does all of that. I just need you to deploy it. 4th tab.
Which one is doing that?
Where it says deploy artifact registry to production. The other PR that we were looking at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in there is also.
Yeah. So you need to deploy that first before we do this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to talk to release engineering team about this.
All right, I will. We've already spoken about it. I just need to get the approval on the PR. We had a nice offline chat meeting with Adolfo and Jeremy about it.
Okay, I don't see the approval from them.
Yeah, I'll do that once he's back.
Okay, so
this week.
Be fine because that change. I mean, I just want to be transparent with SIG release about this, because we want to inform them. Oh, we are not doing only 3 control registry. We go to 51. I think we should be transparent about this, not throw under the bus when we do the change. So
okay,
that's why. Okay, we need approval. Okay, I think that. Oh, sorry, I use 2 keyboards, so I'm always lost.
Yeah. Big thank you for working on this.
Yeah, it's a
huge thank you. Yeah.
Absolute thanks.
Yeah, the Cloud Run stuff is also fixed-ish. I mean, I have a proposal to fix it. I just need some approvals there as well. It's not a priority this week because I need to get the backing for up and running.
Which one?
If you there was an open PR about making changes to the Terraform code here.
Oh, this one. Let me put the comment.
Yeah, it's right there. So if you go, this one here.
We need to move that code to Kubernetes SIG.
Do you have a separate repo for it?
The repo for OCI proxy. So
Alright, good. I can do that.
Yeah.
It's also possible to use the generic order bumper with Terraform. I just rejig the code to read the image information from a YAML file. You can do that in Terraform very easily.
We move the code, you do that. I'm fine.
Yeah, I'll work that out. Yeah, I'll have a PR race for that as well.
Okay. Anything else from me?
That's it really. That's it for this week. I'm gonna go and work that out with SIG release and get all the approvals on there.
Thank you.
If we're done, I've thrown one last point in the agenda, the meeting recordings.
Yeah, this has been a conversation for 2 years with SIG Contributs. Currently, the tooling used for auto-publishing stuff is broken. Right now, so we can talk about this in detail about this. The only thing I know is this is an issue for 2 years. People try to do stuff. There's no existing tooling to do that at the moment. So you need to build something from scratch, capable to talk to the Zoom API and the YouTube API at the same moment. People try to do stuff. I saw nothing about it. Currently, only humans, I think Mark is doing that every week or every weekend. So it's minor stuff right now. If you know a tooling capable to do that right now, and that cover the scale of the Kubernetes community, go to talk to SIG Contributs because everyone came up.
Rian, are you concerned around the community scaling part or for this particular meeting?
No, for this particular meeting. So my question here is specifically about this meeting because we like to go back to this meeting recordings. So if we can do in this meeting, have a plan to get it up earlier, that would be great.
Unfortunately,
help in any way.
Unfortunately, we try tools and none of them.
No, it should be working now. A while back, Contrabex people reached out to me on behalf of SIG testing, and we had to give them access to the SIG testing for a minute, and they reconfigured something, and our meetings are showing up.
No,
Like I just checked.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
Earlier this year, I think Paris reached out and I helped them get access to the SIG testing Zoom, and then they did something, and our meetings are showing up reliably now.
Yeah, because someone makes sure it's happening with tooling. It's not automated. Mark is doing that every weekend. Every time he basically say, "Oh, you do a notification of SIG Contributs every time." So I don't know what he's exactly doing.
But this SIG's meetings are not. So something's different.
Okay, so I will talk to Marky and see what's happening. Maybe there's some access we need to give them so he can plug.
I think they automated it, but I
know
think it's worth reaching out to Contrabex again. Like I said, earlier this year, they reached out to SIG testing to rework that, and it seems to be working.
Okay, I will talk to Mark. I will drop a message to Mark and see what's happening. Because last time I checked about this, it was not really working. Because people show up in SIG Contributs and say they were interested to work on that.
Like there are meetings from the past day on the Kubernetes community account.
Yeah, I know, because I know something's happening between Marky and SIG Contributs. I don't know what tooling they're running to make that happen. I just know it's not fully automated. I just know at some point someone trigger an action and the meeting I upload to YouTube. So I need to talk to Marky.
Sure, but I think what's being asked for here is just timely access to this SIG's meetings, not necessarily whether or not it's totally automated.
Need to run manually for now, it would be great.
Rian, and if it's possible to grant Rian or someone access, or if we need to have different coach, put some people in place who can do
Contrabex is handling it for us. There's no one in SIG testing going and doing this. I'm certain I'm the only active chair at the moment, and it's not me, and it's not the TLs.
I will talk to Marky.
No one else has access.
I will talk to Marky just after this meeting.
Okay, that would be great. Thanks, because we usually after the meeting we like to review because there's always a few AIs or things that we can pick up to clarify. So thanks, Arnold.
Okay, because I knew they were working on something, but what I understood is like it was not fully working for every SIG, so I didn't want to bother SIG contributors about this. So if they have an automated process for this, I will talk to them. Expect feedback from this because Mike is like East Coast. Yeah, Mike is East Coast right now. Okay, anything else?
We could also ask Paris. Paris is the one who worked with me on this.
Okay, we are over time. Thank you for coming.
I can maybe follow up with the IA folks offline. I have a couple of points just to confirm whether or not the S3 has anything else outstanding. I left a note in the doc.
Which
Ben, can I drop you a link to a meeting and then we can quickly catch up if you have a moment?
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll drop you a link in a moment.
I don't see what you post, Brent. Where?
Thanks.
Okay. See you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Mo. Thanks for hosting, Arno.